Did you know that Ethiopia boasts 17 properties inscribed on UNESCO's tangible and intangible World Heritage lists? While some, like Lalibela, were inscribed as early as 1978, recent additions include the Gedio Cultural Landscape, Bale Mountains National Park, and the Melka Kunture and Baljet archaeological and paleontological sites in Ethiopia's highlands. In this episode of Ethiopia in Focus, I speak with Salamawit Kasa, Minister of Tourism, about the Ethiopian government's efforts to harness the country's tourism potential for economic growth and sustainable development, including through the Prime Ministerial DINE initiatives. So welcome to Ethiopia in Focus, Salamawit.
Thank you so much.
Today's conversation is exciting, not only for the both of us, I would imagine, but for a lot of people that are interested in travel, in culture, in history, and
adventure as well.
And adventure. So for Ethiopia, my understanding when we talk about tourism prior to 2018, the focus has always been on historical routes. Since 2018 and over the past 6 years, particularly with the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed championing the sector, there has been multifaceted aspects of it that have been unlocked. So to get our conversation started, I want to understand from you personally, what makes Ethiopia a unique destination?
Thank you so much for having me. One of the things that really interests me when it comes to the tourism sector in our country is the diversity of everything, actually. Diversity is the word that comes to mind when you talk about the tourism sector in our country, in Ethiopia. Diversity in landscape, in geography, diversity in culture, diversity in history as well. So nobody that wants to, come and see Ethiopia is going to be bored. The one thing that needs to be sold to the global community, which makes Ethiopia very unique, is everyone can actually come and find something that would attract their interest. As you have said, in the past 6 years, the focus that we used to have to the sector has dramatically changed. We call ourselves Ethiopia, land of origin. Why are we saying that? We need to actually, dive into the concept of originality. So diversity and originality are these two main pillars when it comes to the tourism, the conversation of the tourism sector in Ethiopia. Originality, we're talking about the oldest humanoid in the world, Lucy, not just Lucy though. We're talking about other findings
local name
as well. Dinkanesh in Ethiopian, in her Ethiopian name.
And you have a namesake as well, Salam?
Exactly. We have Ardi as well. And a lot of other very unique and significantly important to the sector. And those discoveries have made us the land of origin. But we're not just talking about humanoids here. We're actually talking about a lot more than that. We're talking about the origin of coffee, for example. Coffee Arabica has originated in our country, Ethiopia. We're talking about the first pilgrimage of the Muslim religion, yes, the Muslim religion, followers to our country. We're talking about Al-Najashi here. When we talk about the originality, we're talking about our unique calendar. When we talk about originality and the land of origin, we're actually talking about our independence. We are the only country that has, kept independence from colonial powers. So it is actually a very layered and multifaceted concept, and that makes it very, very interesting and it's never boring. So to work towards it, to work in it, and to come and delve into the adventures, delve into the scenery of the tourism attraction sites that we have here is very, very interesting.
So you've raised a very interesting point in terms of not only the originality, but the diversity, the cultural diversity, but also more importantly, in terms of landscape diversity. Ethiopia has got one of the highest points and the lowest points. With your recent travel experiences, as you embarked in your role as a Minister of Tourism, what were some experiences that you would like to share in terms of showcases for this diversity?
This is a very good opportunity for me to talk about very interesting experiences. I am a tourist at heart, that's what I say. So one of the places I have visited was the second highest point in our country. That is Tuludintu. It's found inside Bali National Park. Mm-hmm. Bali National Park, for example, just by itself, it's a world to discover. It's actually called one park, many worlds, because you can actually find the highest and the lowest, spots in our country. You can find Tuludintu, and also you can find Harana forest. Tuludintu,
it's a beautiful forest.
It is absolutely mesmerizing. It is one of the places I would personally envision, and also trying to work towards promoting it as a very scenic destination for the film industry, for example. Because imagine, producing a very for example, a very naturally inclined movie or a horror movie.
Thriller or mystical
exactly.
movie.
So this unique characteristics this park can actually reflect the whole country, because we're talking about diversity here. Even in just one park, you can find that kind of diversity. So imagine what you can actually find and discover through the whole country, which makes it even more interesting. So that's why I wanted to specifically point at the words diversity and originality. So these are the main entry points and the main words that I would like to associate with the tourism sector in our country.
So let's come a little bit in terms of government focus, because not only in the tourism sector, in many sectors, there has been quite a departure in terms of policy shifts. When it comes to the tourism sector, what have been these policy shifts, strategies and initiatives that have been put into place in the past 6 years?
The tourism sector has been, of course, we actually need to understand and know our country to work in the tourism sector. And I personally believe that someone who works in the sector should actually love their country and love everything about it so that they can actually understand it. So you can see this kind of perspective reflected in the policy shifts as well. The tourism sector has been one of the service, the social sectors, which hasn't really been given a lot of attention.
Previously, it was categorized as a social sector.
Yes, so not a lot of investments have been directed towards it. Not a lot of attention has been given to it. And exploring itself, exploring the country, exploring the potential tourism attraction sites, heritage, cultural, historical, natural heritage hasn't been given that much attention. Mostly the private sector has been, actively working around the sector.
But even segmented to particular areas, because we started with the conversation of, I remember it was always the Northern Circuit, the historical route that Ethiopia was much more, famous and promoted for.
Yes, and few other southern areas, for example, the Hammer community. These are only very focused and very, I don't know, I'm not sure about...
Fragmented? Perhaps fragmented.
Yes, very somewhat not really projecting the real Ethiopia to the world, because we're still trying to promote our country as this unique site, this unique destination route But we're still trying to change that perspective because that has been, the main focus towards it. But now in the past 6 years, the tourism sector has been given this, the way we see the sector itself has changed completely. It's not a social sector anymore. It's actually one of the main economic pillars of our country, one of the main 5 economic drivers of the country on a macroeconomic level. So for it to be recognized as such is a huge change in the way we see the sector itself. That comes with investments. The government has been investing in the sector in a very organized, in a very strategic manner, so that it can also attract the private sector to actively participate in actually following through. The government has been investing in the sector in a very strategic and organized manner, so that the private sector can actually participate in the sector and drive the tourism activities in the country. Because in many countries, in the global perspective of the sector, the government cannot carry the load of the sector by itself. The main activities, the main players of the sector are the private, players. So attracting them, giving them opportunities, giving them perspectives, giving them,
incentives,
infrastructural incentives and other, investment incentives as well. That would have a huge impact in the long term when it comes to, promoting the sector itself. The government has also changed the way the public sees the sector itself, because we're now working with a population that has developed a travel culture. People are now traveling a lot. For example, the local tourism activity has significantly grown in the past few years. This has a huge impact, not only on the sector itself, but it transcends into something else as well, because we're talking about building peace. We're talking about exchanging cultural, heritage. We're talking about language, interactions. And this will directly impact the nation building activities of the country. And that's why tourism has a huge impact in nation building and strengthening a nation, in general.
When it comes to the economy, and you rightly stated it, with incentives for the private sector and attracting the private sector, and in previous conversations as well, we've talked about how the opening up of the economy is facilitating, a conducive environment for private sector-led growth. And rightly, with tourism, even Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has said it on several occasions, the initiatives that are being catalyzed within the tourism sector by the government are meant to open up the space. So there's some initiatives that have been undertaken by the Prime Minister. Can you expand on some of these initiatives that have been a catalyzing factor for the private sector, as well as the tourism as a pillar itself?
Exactly. Let's take this conversation back to probably like 5 years, 4 years, 5 years. In the past 4 or 5 years, for example, one of this huge potential that Ethiopia has, huge advantage, is having the Ethiopian Airlines, one of the biggest airline in Africa and one of the biggest in the world as well. So that is one competitive advantage when it comes to the tourism sector. And also that opens up another dimension, the stopover tourism, for example. So when we talk about stopover tourism, we're actually talking about promoting destination, tourism destination sites close by in a city bound, area. So elevating the tourism attraction sites in Addis Ababa was one of the main pillars when it comes to promoting the inbound activities of the sector.
Building new destinations within the city.
So that directly relates to the Gabata for Shaggar initiative that the Prime Minister has fulfilled. And we are also now seeing this other dimension of it in the corridor projects that also that completely changes the face of Addis and the dynamics of Addis. Now we can actually can say that 12 million people, by the way, the number is impressive. The people that pass through Bole International Airport are 12 million people per year and more sometimes. So that is a huge number. At least using some of that number, attracting some of those tourists to see the city, to see the initiatives, the newly built initiatives through Gabata for Shaggar, the parks, Friendship Park, for example. We're talking about the Abrahus Library or Unity Park, or the Science Museum.
So for anybody that has about 12 hours or anything, there's a lot of opportunities, or even less than
actually.
that.
Even less. Few hours are more than enough. If you can actually, connect those maps, you can actually change the whole game just by investing in the stopover tourism sector.
So let me ask you a question around, again, the economy, because we're talking about the tourism sector being a key pillar of the economy. And post the COVID pandemic, tourism numbers have decreased throughout the world, but there has also been a recent resurgence around that. For Ethiopia specifically, some of the skepticism when it comes to tourism numbers has been about data retention. What is your ministry doing in this regard, and what are we doing within the sector to be able to understand really what kind of tourists are coming into the country, what their needs are, and what are the numbers?
Yep. Understanding the sector itself is identifying where you need to, as a government, where you need to intervene and invest. So to get that clear idea, you need to have the data, you need to have the numbers, you need to have, the corroborated information. That was very vague, in the past years. That's why the ministry has been working on developing the tourism satellite account, which can map out how many tourists have come to our country in a very clear manner. But not just that. Those tourists coming here should have a real impact on the economy. So finding out what kind of economical, input the tourism sector has in the macroeconomic level would give a clear idea to think about the future plans, to invest, to promote the sector itself. So having that, the satellite account has been developed and has also, been officially inaugurated a few months ago. Not just the tourism, Minister of Tourism, but also other stakeholders will have a huge play towards using that account so that they can have a clear idea of the sector itself and the impact that it has on the macroeconomic level of the country.
So when we talk about, again, with the focus of tourism as part of a key driver of the economy, infrastructure projects are key to that as well. And through the prime ministerial initiatives, there's destinations that have been developed and accessorized, or, together with that, other infrastructure projects. But let's talk about, within the larger scale, nationally, what other infrastructure interventions or projects are being undertaken and have been undertaken thus far?
Yes. We have been talking about the investment the government has been, putting on towards the sector. I want to take this issue to a more personal experience, because since my appointment, you've been mentioning, my travel experiences.
Tourism is personal as well. Travel
Absolutely.
and tourism is very personal.
Absolutely, that's what I believe as well. So since my appointment, I've been traveling in some places, and the two places I have seen, I want to mention them here, are, for example, the Fasilides, Gondar. Gondar has a huge potential when it comes to the
Amhara region.
sector. Yes, in the Amhara region, the Gondar city, the historical palace of Fasilides, the restoration project has been going on there. It is fascinating, truly. We're not just talking about the buildings, the historical, heritage of the building, but we're also talking about the potential that it has for so many other sectors as well. The one thing that really fascinated me was, for example, the botanical diversity that the surrounding has. So anyone who would like to study the botanical diversity of Ethiopia can actually find more than 300 varieties of plantations there. So anyone who goes there can find that out. That was a new thing. That was a learning experience.
Because people only go for the castle most of the time.
Exactly. Did you know that there was this specific hall just for spa service? Yeah, that was fascinating. So we can actually leverage this specific elements that these heritage sites have. Unless you actually go there and discover them, you cannot really understand the impact that they have in the historical structure of the entire country.
Mm-hmm. And that is pretty much the distinction between attraction versus destination development.
Exactly.
Fasilides has always been an attraction, but these infrastructure works around it are enabling the development of destinations.
Exactly. They actually make the site into one of the most interesting tourism products that can be promoted throughout the world. Anyone who would like to experience history and a spa service can go there and learn about history, learn about the culture there, and also have this amazing time there as well. One of the things that fascinated me was the scenery of the entire compound. We're not just talking about the grand, castle. We're also looking at history through people's eyes that lived 400, 300 years ago. So understanding their vision, understanding where those people were while they were building those castles could give this unique element of understanding Ethiopia in general. The other restoration site I have seen was the Juma Abba Jafar Palace restoration project
in the Oromia region.
In Oromia region, discovering that the restoration project has been going on for the past few months. It's almost in the completion
stages.
Yes, stage as well. But we're not just talking about the palace there. We're talking about the whole surrounding. We're talking about this huge area which can be developed into one of the biggest coffee tourism sites in our country. We're talking about, for example, the civet coffee. Yeah, the civet coffee. There is this farm that specifically breeds civets there. So the civet produced coffee is one of the most expensive coffees in the world. That was practiced in that area, in the palace area, for so many years. That is already intertwined with the way the community lives there. Incorporating that into the tourism attraction site and using it to attract tourists, to sell history, to sell narratives, to promote our country. It is one of it needs a unique way of looking at Ethiopia in general. So you have to actually go a bit deeper and, go a bit closer to understand the beauty, to understand the magnificent heritage that we have.
I think even close to the city, there's many other restoration works that are happening throughout the country, including the restoration of the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. What about in Addis? I believe the National Palace is also another key asset that the government is working on.
Yeah, one of the things the government has been, so successful at was diplomacy, and using that to actually change the way we see the sectors. One sector that has leveraged from this active and strong diplomatic activities of our Prime Minister is the tourism sector. And you can see that from the French investment. I recently had a meeting with the foreign minister of the French, and in our discussions, we've been talking about the restoration project in Lalibela, but that has now went into phase 2, that covers a whole lot of area. So the
outside of restoring the church,
yes,
itself.
Outside of the restoring the church, even outside of the city itself. So this could go beyond the Amhara region and go to other regions as well. So this the reach has increased significantly. The other project that France government is supporting us on is the restoration project in the National Museum. They have been gracious enough to support the restoration project in the humanoid section where Lucy resides. But also the restoration project has now went into the other phase that in the second level.
And that's the recent one that you've recently signed, I believe.
Yes. That is the second level of the National Museum, where you can find one of the most beautiful and most significant artworks of our country. So anyone who would like to understand what art and history, combines in our country, that's where they should go. So restoring that can directly impact the art sector as well. So investments in this sector highly, changed the way we see the sector itself.
So there's a lot of history, there's a lot of culture, there's a lot of natural attractions that we're capitalizing on. Oftentimes, there's a lot of questions that emerge because of our recent past and incidents of insecurity that we have dealt with. Related to that, what is, because it's important in relation to tourism, what are some of the measures that are being taken in terms of making tourism and travel secure in Ethiopia?
Yes, tourism and stability and peace cannot, go separately. These are the two. Yes, they directly impact one another. Some incidents have impacted the tourism sector in our country. Some incidents that happen in a specific area have been overcapitalized to taint the whole country and change the way the global community see our country, which is very unfair, to be honest. And for example, let's talk about the travel advisories that international organizations and some other countries put out when it comes to their own community to travel to Ethiopia. Some of the travel advisories, unfortunately, haven't even been revised yet, and that is very, very unfortunate and needs to be taken into a serious account, because Ethiopia is a diplomatic hub. Addis Ababa is a diplomatic hub for the entire continent. We're talking about having a lot of international organizations here. We're talking about number of embassies here. The impact that Ethiopia has is immense, but the way some of these travel advisories paint our country to the global community is somewhat very unfair. So travel advisories need to be revised to actually reflect the current situation that the country is at. Specific incidents happen here. Specific incidents happen everywhere. Those should not be the way that the world sees us. Ethiopia is a huge country. We're talking about more than 100 million people. We're talking about this vast, diverse, huge country.
Many regions as well.
Yes, so many regions, so many heritage, so many places to go for the tourists to come, to visit. So it's not just about one place. It's not just about one incident. We're talking about the whole country. So these international organizations, countries, when they actually see this, travel advisors, and when they look into the activities of revising this, they need to consider the potential and the vastness of this country. They need to actually understand the country. So one of the things that the ministry has been doing so far is promoting familiarization trips for embassies and diplomatic community that reside here in Addis Ababa. So introducing them and showing them what Ethiopia really, is, would give them, a clear perspective of, how the country operates. So they can actually have a clear understanding, have a vision, and actually love, the country as well. So,
Relatedly, because there are processes that the government has been undertaking in terms of bringing armed actors to the table. There's been recent successes in that regard, particularly in the Oromia region. And there's other attempts where there's active armed, resistances. Where do you see the role of tourism in peace building, particularly in areas that that are post-conflict as well?
Yes, the government has been taking measures towards peace building, and we can mention strong initiatives that the government has taken so far. Transitional justice, the commission itself that incorporates the entire country, and the participation of the public as well. But when we talk about the tourism sector and the peace building process, we're talking actually about the community on the ground. So the community needs to own the activities, the peace building activities. For that to happen, we need to empower the public. We need to let them know that the tourism sector is not just about the historical, attractions. It's not just about attracting foreigners to our country. It's actually about their livelihood, and it's actually about their identity as well. Because those historical attraction sites we're promoting to the world, those cultural heritage, those natural, attributes. Yes, all of those, they actually are our identity. Those are who we are as Ethiopians. So it's not just about, the economical contribution the sector has. It's actually about promoting us as Ethiopians and presenting us as a country. So the community needs to own the sector itself, needs to own the heritage, needs to promote it as well. So
protect and promote.
Protect and promote, absolutely. For example, one of the things I have seen in my travels throughout, the Bali National Park, was the high and active engagement of the public towards, the conservation process of the national park there. There were, challenges throughout the years, but the public has understood what the park means and protects it like their own. And I've been, I had the privilege of talking to elders there, and they you can see it from their faces. You can see it from, the way they talk about the park, what it means to them. And that kind of, attention, that kind of contribution, that kind of, participation towards, owning the sector itself can have a huge impact when it comes to the peace building process, in the general, in the nation as well.
You've talked earlier about diversity as a key feature of Ethiopia's tourism. You've talked about the community and identity being important when we're showcasing these tourism assets. And you've also talked about the increase of domestic tourism. How does the nexus among these three support peace building?
Yes, when people travel, they don't just travel to see, heritage sites. They don't just, go see for example, the Nyala or, Red Fox, or they don't just travel to see the palaces. They actually go there to experience the places. In experience, there comes understanding. In experience, there comes, connecting. We're talking about the language connection. We're talking about cultural connection. Food connection, exactly. Culinary tourism.
It's a common language throughout.
Exactly. So people can share a meal, and without even talking, they can understand each other. By tasting one community's food. For example, one of the most interesting things I've tasted, for example, in my travels, was cabbage with honey.
Okay,
this is a unique combination, which I wouldn't try, but that was an experience. That was something I now treasure and actually talk about, whenever I am, having a conversation about that specific place, that specific community. So that creates a
connection.
A connection in you cannot really separate that kind of bond by doing this and that. So having that can actually impact the way people understand each other in our country, the way we interact with each other ethnically, when it comes to, the language barriers. Attraction sites don't really, need a lot of explanation. They can actually talk for themselves.
So domestic tourism plays a role in bringing people together and creating cross-cultural connections.
Absolutely. For example, one of the things I have noticed in recent years is the increase of hikers, for example. Hiking groups.
There's a young generation that's really taking that big appetite.
The hiking activities have taken this huge boom in the past few years. These activities, they don't just introduce the public to the surrounding area. It's actually about introducing their own country to the young public, to getting them in contact with the places they wouldn't go in a normal situation. So this kind of interactions, this kind of new ventures in the subsectors of the tourism sector itself has taken a huge boom in the past few years.
What about the economic incentives for peace? Particularly when we look at, for example, perhaps we can talk about community tourism, communities that are being supported to engage in tourism. Is there an incentive for them through this enhanced activities and financial flows that maybe come to them to preserve their peace?
Yes. A good example for this specific subject is Wanji Eco Lodge.
Part of the Dine for Ethiopia
Dine for
initiatives.
Exactly. One of the most fascinating projects, if I may say, because of the way the community is engaging in the process. It is one of the unique ways of looking at the tourism sector. We're talking about Eco Lodge that directly relates with the livelihoods of the people that used to live there in those, newly built tourism attraction sites.
They've maintained their livelihoods in the center of the
Not
the
just
resort.
maintain, but also elevate. They now
standards.
have a better living standard there. They can actually make money because of the attraction site is there now. I had the opportunity to visit the place while the community was taking lessons on how they can present, themselves, how they can, the lessons were actually very interesting. They were about service. They were about language, on how to greet the visitors, on how to, cook the meal for the visitors. And it was very interesting to see how engaged the community was in this trainings. And you can see it now being practiced in the project as well. So this kind of initiatives that directly relates to the livelihoods of the public in the Eco Lodge, for example. The other Eco Lodge, environmental Eco Lodges that were identified by the UNESCO, for example, is Lebis Eco Lodge, which directly has this huge tie with the community that lives there. And we can mention a lot of examples when it comes to this, and this directly relates with the economical impact the sector has, on a national level.
And segueing from your last statement on that, investments. What are priority areas and what are opportunities for both domestic and international investments in the tourism sector?
One opportunity is destination developments. Our tourist attraction sites are, immense in number. So the destination development, facilitating the parks so that they can be, more accessible, they can be more tourist friendly, is one of the main investment areas that the private sector can participate on. The other is, for example, recently, a few days ago, we had an agreement with African National Parks. This is one new venture that the sector has taken. One of the most uncharted parks that we have in the country is the Gambela National Parks, with huge potentials.
It's beautiful in terms of just the flora and the fauna in the area.
Absolutely. The wild animals you can find there, it is absolutely mesmerizing. But we haven't been using it so far. So managing the park has been given to a private sector, an international private sector, so that they can invest, leverage the international community support and bring investments to the park so that, the community can benefit from it, so that we can actually, promote what we have to the world. So this is another venture that the private sector can participate on. Another key area in the tourism sector is the service providing sector. When it comes to the tourism sector, we're talking about hotels, we're talking about travel, agencies,
Mm-hmm.
We're
transportation,
talking about transportation, institutions as well. We're talking about tour guides. So it has huge potential for the private sector, very untapped. The number of tour operators in our country is very small compared to the potential that we have. So this sector itself, this subsection itself, has a huge space for the private sector to come and participate on. We're talking about hotels. Of course, there have been immense investment when it comes to building this high-end, high-class hotels for the MICE tourism. But still, comparing the potential to the investment of the private sector, we haven't even begun. Let's put it at that. So international investors, are being communicated through diplomatic channels, through our ministry as well, and also other stakeholders have a huge impact in the sector as well.
During our conversation, one of the things that you've raised is that Addis Ababa is the capital and the diplomatic hub of Africa. You've mentioned the strong national carrier that we have that has a continental reach and an international reach. MICE, what are we doing, particularly in terms of promoting and maximizing the opportunities there?
Yeah, let's put it as such. 2024 was a MICE year for Ethiopia. Yeah. In the past few months, Addis Ababa has hosted more than 40 international, continental, and regional conferences and events.
In the past quarter?
Just in the past few months, yes, 3, probably maximum 4 months. This is not a small number. This has shown a huge increase from the past year. Mm-hmm. So why does this happen? Because first, the government has promoted the sector, and the investments are now actually, paying forward. Mm-hmm. They're contributing to the economy. Not just that, the sectors have now taken the concept of promoting our country through MICE, through events, through conferences. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the conferences and the specific agendas that the meeting halls are presenting. It's about presenting Ethiopia to the global community, to the specific sectors as well. So the attention given to the sector, mm-hmm. the attention given to the subsection MICE itself was immense. Mm-hmm. Other things I would like to mention is the initiatives that the government has taken in the city. They now attract the business. Mm-hmm. You don't really need to go and sell Addis Ababa to the international community. Now Addis Ababa can sell itself. People can see the potential. People can see the uniqueness, the historical background, every event. For example, our ministry has taken a stand on presenting Ethiopia, having a booth, for example, to promote Ethiopia in every event that has been held in Addis Ababa.
International
events, yes, events and conferences that are held in Addis Ababa, presenting the entire tourism sector in the country. That was one stand that we took to our heart, and we were using technology, virtual realities, so that people can plan ahead and come to discover Ethiopia as well. So the attention given to the MICE sector was huge. Let's talk about investments specifically towards MICE. The newly constructed convention center, mm-hmm. that is going to change the game for Ethiopia in the MICE industry, in the international, in the global aspect mm-hmm. of MICE. It is one of,
this is the Addis Ababa Convention Center.
The way it is connected to other stakeholders, mm-hmm. the way it is a well-thought connectivity that was put on the vision of, building that convention center there, mm-hmm. you can actually see the attention given to the sector. So it is very close to the airport. It is very close to the hotel facilities. So people can actually participate in the international events there, and then, enjoy the other services given to them. So the connectivity, the investment, and the vision the city and the country, the entire country has, is now being seen in the MICE industry.
So my last question for you, Salamawit, 13 months of sunshine, Ethiopia offers that. And it's very difficult for me to pose this question by, putting a certain holiday period and saying this is the peak season in Ethiopia, because again, 13 months of sunshine throughout the year, it's
throughout
the peak season.
The year, yes.
5 top destinations that come to your mind that you say somebody who's visiting Ethiopia for the first time has to go and see?
That is a very difficult question, honestly, because
there's many to choose from, I know.
So many to choose from. And, okay, I'm going to try. Bale National Park, that's one. Gara'alta is 2.
In the Tigray region.
Yes, in
Huge
Tigray
mountains.
region, yes. The scenery is absolutely magnificent there. Chabara, Jojora Park. That is one of the best things I've ever seen.
An elephant sanctuary.
Exactly.
And one of the destinations for the Prime Minister projects.
I came very close to
Very
the
close to an
elephants,
elephant.
and that was actually the highlight. And the way the lodge has been built, you can actually see the vision towards it. The way we actually see our country, it's been implemented there. The beauty, the specificity of the what else? People do need to see Harar and Dredwa as well. That is a unique way of diversity by itself. So the way the community lives, and the cultural interaction there, the way the religions interact with each other
Harmoniously.
by
Very colorful
itself,
places.
very colorful. You can visit the living museums there, so you can actually be part of the museums while visiting there. Addis Ababa by itself is a huge attraction site. I don't know where to begin, but Addis Ababa, our capital city,
is a must.
Is a must. It is an absolute must for anyone to come and visit.
And I think on that note, I want to say thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
In the short run, for being climate smart and investing in climate actions costs, of course, long-term benefits are there. So deciding to be climate smart and investing in climate actions it really takes commitment, from government. So it's really smart and progressive for a country, for a developing country like Ethiopia, to be climate smart. From the vision itself, from the 10-year development plan, the long-term vision, to the detailed annual plans. There are several programs in the agriculture and food security sector. Of course, other sectors as well, the energy sector, for instance, programs in the transport and logistic sector, which strictly speak to our climate resilience vision.